as the fires burn, it is time to ask Dane what we're going to do next. At last our work is done, but it rings hollow, my friend. Many were those lost in the fighting, but now even the dale itself lies barren and lifeless. I weep for my father, Nine. I wish he knew how soon victory would come after he fell. Along with the rest of our kin, he too will be burned, but he will remain in my mind as the proud dwarf that he was. Our friends and cousins mourn their losses, and I would not leave them to grieve alone. I have paid my respects to each of them. I am certain that they would welcome any words of comfort from you as well, Herma. Once that is done, you ought to talk to Thorin. I believe we will only await King Thrain before this grim task is finished. Very well. I will pay my respects to each of the kings of the dwarves. First, we have King Shalim of the Night Cloak. I thank you. We have lost many, but it was not in vain. Next, we have King Owner of the Laundream. My father, Agni, would not have had it any other way. Next, we have King Ugun of the Cambrada. I mourn the loss of my father, Usk, a curse upon the orcs. Next, we have King Vekun of the Jauruka. Father Velat fell in fighting, but he is a hero among the Jauruka. Next, we have King Drogar of the Bloodwhisker. Too many of our flames have been extinguished, but I thank you. Then finally, we have the sixth one, King Yegin. It will take many years to recover what was lost, but you have my thanks, Longbeard. Then finally, we speak with Thorin Oakenshield. Here he is.
What tidings do you bring?
Hermoth, I think we are all ready to light the final pyres. Although I am not certain as to his reasons, I believe my father has gone down to Keled Zoram. We all mourn in our own ways, I suppose, so perhaps he seeks the wisdom of the first crafter. Alas, this duty is his alone. Would you go find him and tell him that we are prepared? Very well, I shall do so. Find the King Thrain somewhere at Keled Zaram. Here he is, at the edge of the water. Yes? King Thrain appears lost in thought, his gaze fixed upon the dark waters of Keled Zaram. It's time to light the final pyres. and we're prepared, and Thorin has sent me to bring you back. So be it. Even without the others, I had hoped that Khazad-dûm might be won. But even I cannot ignore such dire portents. The stars have gone, Hermoth. Durin's crown has fallen into darkness. Khazad-dûm is lost. I have been long enough in my thoughts, friend. Let us return. Bah! It did not seem so far when I walked down here. Go on, Hermoth. Tell my son I'll be there soon enough. Very well, Your Majesty. He is on his way.
We fight on, or we must.
My father is stubborn as ever, I see. We will wait, then. And we wait for some time, until finally King Thrain begins to shuffle up the ramp to the central pyre. Ah, here he is. He has returned with a torch ready for the great duty. I am sorry for my delay, my son. I had need to look upon Khaled-Zarab, and the stars gave me their answer. It is time we honored our fallen as best we can. We have stripped them of their mail, taken their weapons, and now we give their bodies to the flame. Bolg and the orcs will never make trophies of them. To burn the dead is not the way of any of our people, but it must be done, and we must hold those who lost dear to our hearts and our memory. Let us honor them together. Dwarves, kin, cousins, here before the eyes of Durin we honor our dead. Let us send the lords and kings of the 7 houses to the forge of the first crafter. May their valor and their sacrifices never be forgotten. By your torch, Hermoth. And the fire burns. I better step back. I don't want to be one extra burnt dwarf. As smoke rises into the night sky above the dale, Dine looks to you.
My heart is heavy, friend. I wish it hadn't come to this.
We all wish it hadn't come to this. We all wish. It's good to be back to where I can breathe. Although I wish it had gone elsewise, the war is ended. Too many were the omens that followed the death of Azog, and I must heed them. You fought admirably, Hermoth, as did so many of our kin, but they are now Marisand, the burned dwarves, and we remain to reckon with our fortune, both good and ill. I hold hope that Khazad-dûm will yet be ours once more, but such a prize will not be easily won. No, it will not. What do you say about that, Dane?
It will soon be time to return to the Iron Hills, my friend. I, for one, will be glad to leave this place behind.
Alas for Azanubazar Hermoth, better it be remained in our memory, as it was in the time of Khazad-dûm. It will soon be time to return to the Iron Hills, and I for one would be glad to leave this place behind. After all the bitterness here, I can understand.
Glory to the Longbeards.
And so the pyres burned away, and so the ashen dale of Azanubazar was abandoned. Although none beheld them at the battle's end, we later learned that the elves of the Golden Wood had borne witness to our deeds, spying the smoke from afar as it rose into the sky above the dale. King Thrain had named them at Durin Stone. The Marasan, the burned dwarves, came to occupy a place of great honor and reverence among Durin's folk. Long after, among each of the 7 houses, all a dwarf needed to say about his ancestor was that he was Marazran, and it would be elicit grave nods and murmurs of respect. In time, the other houses departed back to their homes, bearing the burdens of arms and armor collected from their dead. As for the Iron Folk, we too departed, making the long journey back to Yarnfast. Nain became the Lord of the Iron Hills in all but title, for Gror had become lost in his sorrows, surviving his father, brothers, and now his son alike, with not one among them whose bones he could honor. Last of all, King Thrain and his exiles departed. There were few now and weary, having lost much and won little in this war. But south they went along the Great Way, until at last they returned to Zadrugund. The 6th war of the dwarves and orcs was ended. The cost too great, the prize too small to hold. The prize too small to hold. That was quite a story, and I think I'm beginning to understand why Thorin here asked me to read it.
What did you make of Hermoth's account, my friend?
I talked to King Thorin about Hermoth's account of the battle, making note of certain moments. Very good. I am told it is quite a faithful retelling of the battle, speaking as a dwarf who wasn't there, of course. While you were off with the Karumufnar, I had time to consider our next course of action. My son awaits his reinforcements. Right? What are
Let us make certain that Durin receives his reinforcements. The Gabil-Laka must be well prepared for the conquest of the mountain home.
To that end, I have written a number of missives to be delivered to the other Longbeard holdings across the world, as well as those of our cousins, the Landarim and the Narfangoth. Among several others, I have called forth the dwarves of Thorin's Hall, the Gabilizan, and even Gabalashner in the realm of Old Angmar. None shall be excluded from joining the Gabilaka, for as my son rightly said, there will be need for dwarves of all vocations at Gundabad in the days ahead. In addition, I have drafted missives to the kings of Termnir and Azunu and Zekambrata. After all, it is high time they learned of our cousins from Mordor. Of their cousins. I do not know if any among them will send word in return, but I hold hope that the old friendship between our peoples have not been forgotten. I ask that you seek out Skella, Visber, Fregi, Garni, and Udvar here in Erebor, and see that they bring word of the muster to the mountain home. Will you deliver these missives for my writer's pine leaf? Yes, I will deliver all of these missives. And there are quite a number of them to deliver. They must have heard about my reputation for working for the Quick Post. Right? Well, I guess after me bringing all those packages, right before I started all that reading, I suppose he thought me as the postmaster. Hello, Wiesber. Here's a missive for you to deliver. I will be curious to see how our cousins in the East have fared since the war. I guess he will learn about that. Now, where's the next missive to go? Ah, here's Scala. Here's a missive. If the king under the mountain wishes it, it will be done. Thank you. Ah, here's the next writer. A missive for you to deliver. I have made the journey to Thorin's Hall many times. Consider it done. There you go. And we also have Udvar. After so many years apart, I wonder what the Cambrata and Stoutaxes will make of each other. Well, that's going to be an interesting question. And that leaves just one more missive to deliver. Ah, the final messenger is here. Here you go. One message to deliver. Ah, Gabler Shather. I'm glad the Agmarim have left their old kingdom. Yes, I am sure you are. Oh, and I finished my reading, Herseg.
We fight on, for we must.
Elsker, let me think. Oh, yes, I do remember now. Grandfather often spoke of him. He was one of the burned, sadly. Why, no, Grandfather never mentioned going back for that. Never went back for it. I imagine that it could still be there. There could still be a buried necklace after all these years. Well, we have to think on that at some time, but right now I need to speak to Thorin. I have delivered the missives.
It is done. Very good, my friend.
Let us hope that their errands are done swiftly and without any incident. If the reclamation is to succeed, a great many dwarves must answer the call to the Elder Slade. Well, that is true. What next?
It is time we dealt with the matter at hand, my friend.
When I sent you to seek out Herseg at Akrazahar, I also gave to her an errand. Although I sent Agnar, Lagi, and Redwald to aid my son in his campaign, I must admit I hesitated to enlist another of my father's old friends in the Harun Ubnar. Not because I did not think him suited to the task, but for reasons I am ashamed to give voice. But I have shrunken from my duty for long enough. As I had hoped, Herseg has sent word that I have been invited to visit her family's home at Vosh Toru. Whether this meeting goes well or ill, Durin awaits your return. What do you say, Pine Leaf? Will you accompany me? Yes, I will accompany you.